Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from Maniusa Bata Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Grace Hamwajuman.
This evening here on Hot Edition, Destroy Galamsey, Not Our Future. Protesters fume as they demand release of detained activists of the Democracy Hub demonstrators. We have details of that shortly here on Hot Edition. Also, the Western North records first monkeypox case. 230 suspected cases in 88 districts in Ghana. We have updates from the Ministry of Health coming through, and the Ghana Health Service as well here on Hot Edition. The Greater Accra region recording the highest number of the caseload as we speak. Also, a Eurobond debt exchange program, government secures more than 90% participation. That's according to the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Nadam. We have details of that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 on Campaign Trail. On your Election Command Center, 2024 elections can't proceed without my inclusion on the ballot paper. That's according to Bernard Mona, who is the flag bearer of the People's National Convention, PNC, who has dragged the Electoral Commission to court. We have details of that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. And Safwa Boying is here with a summary of the news.
Thank you, Alfred, and welcome to the news summary segment. And now to the details. President Akrofi Ocansey has appealed to organized labor to suspend its intention of a nationwide strike. This follows a declaration of strike after government refused to declare a state of emergency. Organized labor says it will convene an emergency meeting Friday to consider the president's appeal. Also, the three-day protest against the arrest of some Democracy Hub members and the fight against Galamsey has started with over 5,000 police officers deployed to ensure a peaceful protest. The protesters, among others, are demanding the release of some members of the Democracy Hub demonstrators and all joint calls for the declaration of a state of emergency with illegal mining. The protest, which is running from today to Saturday, October 5, will present a petition to the Speaker of Parliament and others. Away from that, Ghana has confirmed its first case of the Mpox virus. This follows nearly 2 months of heightened surveillance after an earlier report by the Africa Center for Disease Surveillance suggested 4 cases have already been recorded. Mpox, which used to be called monkeypox, is an infectious viral disease that can occur in humans and other animals. It can cause a painful rash, enlarged lymph nodes, and fever. Most people fully recover, but some get very sick. According to the Ghana Health Service, 230 suspected cases are also being investigated across all the 16 regions of the country, with contact tracing and surveillance teams at work. Also, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, says it will not hesitate to embark on a series of actions in the coming days to demand that the GES reinstates the heads of Ahantaman and St. Rose's Senior High Schools without delay. According to NAGRAT, the Ghana Education Service failed to conduct an effective investigation into the matter, leading to their interdiction. Now to our last story. The Paramount Chief of Lower Axim, Awule Atibrukusu III, has led an operation with his sub-chiefs to arrest illegal miners at some illegal mining site in the Nzama East municipality of the Western region. Awule has vowed to hold accountable any traditional leader in his jurisdiction found to be complicit in environmental degradation and ensure they face swift sanctions from the Traditional Council. And this brings us to the end of the news summary segment and over.
For buying, thank you so much for a summary of the news. It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's go straight into our issues this evening. Hundreds of Ghanaian youth and environmental activists have yet again taken to the streets in the capital city on a 3-day protest in demand of action against illegal mining. The demonstrators are also demanding the release of some 53 Democracy Hub members arrested during an anti-Galamsey demonstration sometime last week. Also, the latest protest dubbed Free the Citizens demonstration comes in the wake of a resurgence of illegal mining and the seeming lack of governmental action to protect water bodies and the environment. The protesters also want the repeal of a legislation that permits mining in forest reserves. Some of them spoke to our news team during the demonstration earlier today.
There are two main issues. The first and foremost is for Galamsey to stop now. This we have reiterated several times, that the devastation that Galamsey is causing is beyond us. We cannot begin to fathom. We can't wait for the worst of the worst to happen to us. And the second issue is for our brothers and sisters who have been arrested and detained by the police to be freed. And that is what we are
Personally, what actually moved me to be out is the fact that I believe that water is one of the most basic and essential commodities that we all use as humans. You understand? Science has made us understand that the human body is made up of 60% of water. So it is important for all of us to fight for clean water, because humans can survive without food, but nobody on this earth can survive without water. So it's as basic as that they should stop Galamsey now, they should free the citizens, and they should also make sure that the citizens of this country have basic drinking water, clean water, not water that is poisoned by mercury and cyanide.
When our population they suffer for a village, with that city, it won't affect city yet. The time go affect city, as well me then go enter here. The police go join me, the armies go join me. Them now, them are politician people, them now go join me. No, that be too much. We not be NDC, we not be NPP, we not be APC, we not be any top political party. Time we could tell the truth. Yeah, bre. They all make we see what Kenya do before we go retaliate. No.
I have money, but when our water bodies are destroyed, you can't buy the water being imported. So no one is getting arrested because we are protesting peacefully. Come out in your numbers and let's protest.
We have to hold people accountable because we put you in power, because we need accountability. That's why you are voted in power. Once there is no accountability for us, then we don't know what is happening. So accountability is what we are looking for. That is what we are demanding for.
They are polluting our waters. Let me say, if they are not stopping it, right? I don't have money to do dialysis. You don't have money to do dialysis. The people in the village don't also have money to do dialysis. So what we can do best is we have to stop them from polluting our waters.
And we have videos of this on 3FM 92.7 on Facebook. You can just check it out there right now as we're streaming live on Facebook. And we're going to get a bit more detail into this. And there are a number of, beyond these young people with placards and sending a direct message to the presidency, the other interest groups and individuals as well who joined these protesters to send a clear message about the need for some urgent action to be taken to clamp down on the devastating effect of illegal mining as we are faced with right now in this country. And Ernesto Yeboah is leader of the Economic Fighters League, one of the several groupings that also joined the protesters earlier today. Ernesto, appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thank you very much, Alfred. Always a pleasure to speak to you.
Fantastic. Good to have you as always. Now, let's first establish this. Now, would you say that the objective for hitting the streets today has been achieved in sending that clear message to government?
Well, thank you once again, and good evening to you and to your listeners out there. I think to a large extent it has, in the sense that these 53 patriots, and I am particular about labeling them patriots because that's precisely who they are. They are not protesters. That's not them. They are patriots. They rose up not because of their party. They rose up because of humanity. And so I hope we are able to label them as precisely as we can, so that the violations of their rights cannot continue in the manner in which it is going. The first lesson we have learned from this is that when we allow just a few group of people to step forward on issues that confront all of us, that we should all be concerned about. What we do is we endanger, the lives and the rights of those individuals. And so at this point, we need to send a strong apology to these 53 patrons who stepped forward to be counted. And I can see that already we are taking inspiration from their leadership and stepping forward in the mass that we did today. One of the things that today's demonstration has achieved is the fact that a significant number of Ghanaians stepped out despite the intimidation of police presence, recent kidnappings and abductions. Some people, even in their homes, were taken. You take somebody like Killian, he was taken from his home. People were walking in town, nowhere near the, demonstration ground. And yet they were kidnapped by Ghana police and hurriedly arraigned before court. And the court has denied them, bail. And so the idea that the fear that the state sought to inject into the system has clearly not worked.
Well, there are those who also argue otherwise, because, this demonstration was thought to have some appreciable numbers than we saw now. So to the extent that in this country would always peg the success of a demonstration to the number of persons who turned up or came out on the streets to protest, would you say that really people overcame the so-called fear, as you put it, to come out today because of the numbers which we saw, which was really not that many people as was expected?
At least it was more than double what we saw in the last 3-day demonstration. And that is success. You see, we don't have a culture of protest in Ghana. It's not like Kenya or South Africa or Zimbabwe, where the culture of protest is entrenched within their democratic space. In Ghana, we pretend to be a democracy. We are not. And so we don't have it. But then the kind of people we saw today, and if your cameras did some little focusing, you would find that these are not generally people who would respond to a call to come, to step into the streets and protest. And that is the power of this, demonstration. That people who have never stepped into the streets to protest, people who have been taught right from day one when they were born, that to step in the streets in protest is a sin against God. It is bad. It is not a desired character. When you mention Ernesto Yeboah, what comes to mind immediately for some people? Oh, that controversial, that fool, that's that kind of that's the characterization you get. For being involved in civil protests and agitations that are to more or less liberate the people. And so what we have seen today in itself points to a breaking of that chain and a layer step forward to advancing the cause of our nation. So that in itself is success.
And you're going to continue for the next 2 days ahead of us, the specific outlining?
Absolutely. And consider that today is just a working day. Tomorrow, on Saturday, it's going to be massive because it's not a working day. And many people who wanted the opportunity to step into the streets would be having that. And so we anticipate the numbers increasing like it has been with all protests, all demonstrations. Demonstrations are organic, and therefore they grow. They are living organisms. They grow, they multiply, they quadruple, and we expect to see that in the coming days.
Ernesto, appreciate your time on this matter. Thank you so much for joining us.
most grateful. Okay.
And Eso Yeboah is the convener of the Economic Fighters League, one of the groups that also joined the demonstrators earlier today to protest, to bring home that call for some urgent action to be taken in the fight against illegal mining, also demanding the release of some 53 Democracy Hub protesters who were arrested about 2 weeks ago.
Alfred, and our colleague Armstrong Gold-Alogbe has been the man on the beat since morning. He joins us in studio for more on this. Armstrong, so you have been at the forefront of the demonstration since morning till now. You just came in from the demonstration grounds. How would you describe the turnout, the calls, the demeanor, and all that happened today?
Yeah, great. So it's been very hectic. 8 solid hours of walking from Oponglo all the way to the Osu cemetery area there. They couldn't get to the Independence Square because we are told there's a program happening there. So the police pleaded with them to converge at the Osu cemetery area there. There is a forecourt over there. So that's where they assembled and then presented a petition to the Attorney General's office received by the Attorney General's PA or assistant, that is Uberforce Asari. So for the turnout from the beginning, it looks a little bit discouraging as you could see that the protesters had some challenges showing up. Also because you could see police officers in their numbers with about 3 buses parked full of police officers. So if you, as Grace, wants to join such a protest and then the first thing you see is huge police presence, definitely you'll be alarmed. And looking at what happened some week ago, where some 54 protesters were picked up, some even allegedly were just standing and then were picked. Currently serving some 2 weeks under police remand.
Custody, others in prison custody.
That's definitely would discourage you from coming. So from the beginning, it was a little bit difficult getting the numbers. They were supposed to have moved around 7 a.m., but it dragged to like 9:30 a.m., where they gathered some few members, numbering about 50 to 100. And at every intersection, we have new faces joining from all walks of people. And I'm told people travel as far as Kaswa and also even Winneba to join this protest. And I think day one has been very successful. And it looks like the intimidation they spoke about in the morning seems to have been overcome, because before we got to the ridge runabout, the numbers doubled or tripled. Because if you look at it from the top, you could see the numbers are so encouraging now. And this day one, mostly when they are doing these 3 days protests, you see that first days are not really encouraging, but today I may say it's very encouraging.
When we spoke to you on midday, you mentioned that they also brought on their own security personnel, some people or some men in orange uniforms and all. Talk to us about that.
So they came with their own internal security because for them, they've realized that some people, not necessarily part of the demonstrators or the protesters, come in to foment problems. So these security details from within to listen in and pick intelligence. So if they cite anybody who is in to cause trouble, they pick you up and they hand over to the police. I think when we got to the Kaukudi intersection, something almost interrupted where some of the protesters wanted to veer off and use the Kaukudi road heading towards 37. And this same internal security prevented them and said, no, this is not the route. The route is using the Kaukudi down to the AC towards the ridge runabout, then to Parliament House, finally at the cemetery where they convert. So I think this is also a good one, bringing in their own security to ensure that people do not foment problems leading to the arrest of some innocent souls.
Yeah. So the content of the petition that was presented to the AG, did you by any chance have a glimpse of it? What are their calls or what are they demanding?
It's 2 main demands. First, releasing the 54 protesters, calling on the AG departments to discontinue any process to prosecute the protesters who are currently serving remand. They are in remand and to appear after some 2 weeks. That is on the 10th of this month. They are asking for the AG to discontinue that case. And also the Galamsey issue, they want the president to walk the talk, saying he wants to put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey. Less than 3 months for his presidency to come to an end. the people are asking, Mr. President, is it just a mere rhetoric that you just came up with? We want to see an action. We want to see an action on the ground. Either you are firing the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources or anybody involved in the issue of Galamsey. Anybody is supposed to ensure that the fight against Galamsey is successful. They are calling that these people, either they are fired or are asked to come up with new strategies to ensure that the pollution of the water bodies in the various villages or the rural communities comes to a stop, Grace.
All right, so finally, do we know the route for tomorrow? How is tomorrow going to be like?
Tomorrow, they are going to take same routes, but tomorrow they will end at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Okay. That is what we'll be presenting their petition. And for them, they are praying that nobody joins them to cause any problems. Today has been very peaceful, and even the AG representatives that came for the petition commended them for the peaceful protest they had. But let me speak about his comment when he received the petition. I personally spoke with him, asking him what is he going to do now. The people are calling for the 54 protesters to be released immediately. Well, he said that no, there were excesses in the other protests that took place. Hence, the AG, the Attorney General's Department, is unable to immediately release them. Even not even the IGP can release them because the law must take its course. Okay. But then, in case anybody petition them that they should discontinue the process, well, they will, but they cannot guarantee that all 54 of the protesters that were picked up will be immediately released.
All right, Armstrong, thank you for that update. And you can have some rest now. It's been a very long day for you. My colleague Armstrong Gold will be updating us on the first day of that demonstration that says #No to Galamsey.
And on the back of that, there's some breaking news that's coming through not too long ago.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.7.
And some news coming through right now. The Medina Member of Parliament, Francis Xavier Sosus, also a private legal practitioner, has dragged the IGP and the Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, to the Human Rights Court over the violation of the rights of some 32 protesters, Democracy Hub protesters. Now, in a bold move, the Member of Parliament for the Medina constituency, Francis Xavier Sosus, has taken the Inspector General of Police and the Attorney General to the Human Rights Court over alleged human rights violations against the 32 Democracy Hub protesters. This development comes after Francis Xavier Sosu's own experience with the Ghana Police Service harassment during a demonstration by his constituents over bad roads in 2021. Here are the details of the case as we do know it right now. The Member of Parliament is seeking redress for the protesters who claim to have been subjected to various forms of abuse and mistreatment by the police. Sosu's action is a significant step towards holding authorities accountable for their actions and inactions during, and also ensuring that the rights of citizens are protected. Now, this is not the first time Francis Xavier Sosu has clashed with the police. If you recall, in 2021, he was manhandled, reportedly, by the police officers during a demonstration by his constituents, leading to a summons by the Speaker of Parliament to investigate the matter. The Member of Parliament has been vocal about police brutality and has advocated for a change in policing policies. So stay tuned on this one for some updates as we go on. That's information coming through right now. A private legal practitioner and Member of Parliament for the Medina constituency, Francis Xavier Sosu, has dragged the IGP and the Attorney General to the Human Rights Court over violation of the rights of some 32 protesters. And that's the information we have right now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Still staying on the issues of illegal mining, President Akufo Addo has appealed to organized labor to suspend its planned nationwide strike. Now, this follows a declaration of strike after government refused to declare a state of emergency. Organized labor says it will convene an emergency meeting on Friday, that's tomorrow, to consider the president's appeal. Our labor correspondent Daniel Opoku sat through the meeting. Is going to be joining us on the telephone shortly for a quick update on this one. Daniel is joining us. Daniel, good to have you join us here on Hot Edition. What more do we know about this meeting that took place earlier today?
Right, so basically the president decided to invite the leadership of organized labor, which they honored the invitation this morning. And the meeting, the president made an appeal for them to suspend their strike and give him ample time for him to sit and see how best they can be able to resolve the problem. So right after that, organized labor has decided to meet its entire leadership, its constituents by close of day tomorrow, where they'll be able to tell them exactly what the president told them so that they will be able to convince them for them to back down on their decision. But my indications are that if tomorrow leadership of organized labor fails to convince its members, then obviously they may have to carry through the decision that they will want to embark on a nationwide strike.
And you monitored the demeanor and also the reaction after the meeting. Would you say that it's one that would give consideration to that plea by the president?
Right. When we look at the demeanor of organized labor, realize that they were not too enthused with what the president said. And they believe that hasn't been the first time the president has engaged them. And consistently that the engagement they've had with the president over some issues actually have not yielded much results or fruitful result that they would have expected. For instance, when we look at the case of Smith, where the president invited them and they appeared before the presidency, and the results or the outcome of that meeting actually did not yield much to their interest, even though the matter has been shelved. And they believe that appearing before the president, obviously, you may not be able to carry through a decision for you to strike. Because when you appear before the president, meaning that the first time the president has made an appeal. So if they should proceed with the action, it's an indication that there's a smell of bad faith, that they don't, more or less, for want of a better word, do not respect the president. So all these things will play out when they meet their constituents tomorrow. Let's not forget that UTAC also is still standing by with their deadline. They give up to 30th of September. 30th has elapsed, and they are standing by tomorrow to see what exactly will happen in their discussions. So in case they don't get anything fruitful, there's a possibility that they are likely to carry through with the action from next week. But with the president stepping in, I don't foresee labor embarking on any nationwide strike.
I see, but obviously, they gave that 10th of October, that's the date to, as it were, take that decision to go on the strike. Now, I want to find out from you, with your engagement between that's Tuesday and now, is there any indication that if there is any strong development between now and the 10th, that would influence Labour's decision on whether to go on strike or not? That's beyond or despite the president's intervention today?
Right, so Alfred, what actually will compel Labour to back down on its nationwide strike is for the president to meet their demands. When they appear before the president, presented a petition. One, for the president to announce a total ban on small-scale mining, also illegal activities, which they are asking the president to do so. But in case the president is unable to do that, then obviously they may have to carry through with their decision to strike. They believe that they have not been taken seriously over the years by the various governments, because the last meeting they had, that's on Tuesday, organized, but they would also believe that they should have started the strike the next day, which was Friday yesterday. And others also proposed, let's give governments ample time after the 10th of October before we embark on a strike. These are the issues playing out. But when we look at the issues critically, we realize that the president has shown some level of commitment to be able to address the problem. As to total ban, I foresee that to be a bit of a difficulty. Possibly the president will announce a ban in some areas in the mining space, but beyond that, for a total ban where they won't listen to actually the members of the small-scale mining people. What they are telling you is that in excess of 1 million people will be laid out of work in case there should be a total ban. All these will play out. But let's see what the president will be able to do together with his team, where they'll be able to convince the leadership of organized labor to suspend their decision. What is important now is for labor, president will be able to convince labor to suspend its decision and then sit down with them. And also, National Labour Commission has stepped in, which will also be taking up the matter throughout this week and up to next week to be able to resolve the problem.
We'll see how things play out. Daniel Opoko is our Chief Labour Affairs Correspondent. Daniel, thank you for this update.
Thank you very much, Fred.
That's Daniel Opoko giving us updates of that meeting between organized labor and the presidency. We'll tell you what Professor Ransford Jampo has been saying about this meeting. He's described this as unnecessary. We'll get into that shortly. But Kenneth Kumsin, who is the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour, has also been given indication of what would happen if there is any significant development between now and the 10th of October, that date that organized labour has given for that intended strike to begin.
Not be necessary, because the strike essentially is based on those demands. So yes, if government respond to these demands, then obviously they need to embark on strike, or to commence the strike after the notice period will essentially be moot. So that must be placed on record.
I see. But we're talking about a workforce of almost 700,000. I mean, that is if the size of labor is anything to go by. Do you have, from what it states now, the buy-in of the almost 700,000 workforce that on October 10, if we don't see a state of emergency declared and other demands, you're going on strike?
Beyond 700,000, the 700,000 figure is actually the number estimated for public sector employees. This strike declaration encompasses all sector employees. There is both formal and informal, private sector and then public sector. So you have a private sector that also has very huge numbers depending on the sector you're looking at. So the numbers may be more than that. And the question of whether or not there is a buy-in, I think all of us understand that an essential of life, which is water, if it's poisoned, polluted, desecrated, for which reason we will become victims of few greedy, evil men who, by virtue of wanting to amass wealth, will subject with impunity all of us to this kind of catastrophe. The question of whether or not we are all for it, I don't think is a question that anybody will blink an eye. Overwhelmingly, every Ghanaian, whether employed or unemployed, recognizes that water is an essential of life. And if Ghana Water Company on the 30th of August communicated unequivocally that if measures are not taken to reverse the trend, Ghana in the next 6 years may have no option or choice than to import water. The question that arises is how many Ghanaians have what it takes to import water?
As Kenneth Kumsin is a Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour there.
Alfred, meanwhile, some members of the clergy have backed the calls for the declaration of a state of emergency to tackle the wreck of illegal mining in the country. Some of them who spoke to us contend the current effect of the menace is a sin against humanity and nature.
Galamsey is a menace. It started very small, but now we should all put our hands on deck. I encourage every well-meaning Ghanaian to do everything we can to stamp out Galamsey.
For 6 months, if there is a total ban or a state of emergency, because it's not the best for God to give us such forests, rivers, for us deliberately to kill forests, to kill water, and to kill fishes, and to kill aquatic life in the search of gold. It's not the best. To me, it's wickedness.
So finally, the natural resources that God has given to this nation must be preserved. Water is life. And if there's anything that must be preserved in this nation, that is our water bodies. Today, the rise of many different diseases, especially renal diseases, kidney diseases, kidney failure. A lot of people ask, why are people getting so much renal failure and cancers and all these things? It's because there's pollution. And everybody drinks water, and we need water to survive. So if there's anything that is being done that will pollute the water bodies of this nation, it must definitely be checked. Because this is a menace to society, and not only a menace to society, but something that will endanger the lives of millions of Ghanaians. And, you know, we can't have a few people get wealth at the expense of the millions of Ghanaians. So I believe that the talk on Galamsey should not just be a talk, but there should be action so that we can get a hold of this thing.
These activities have depleted our rivers, depleted the mines. I mean, we are all here, fish stock, and even water resources. So our our prayer is that God will help us through our leadership, the leadership of whichever government, this one or the next one, that they would come up with policies that will help restore these things. And then above all, the young man doing Galamsey himself, his conscience would strike him.
So some members of the clergy, the likes of Reverend Gordon Kisa of GPCC, Apostle Leon Kofi also speaking to us, and then Reverend Afote of the Maranatha Mission also speaking to us. Still on mining though, the Small Scale Miners Association is using its task force to fight against mining in river bodies and check members washing mining residues in rivers. Under the renewed fight, the Small Scale Miners will double the numbers of their task force to check the illegality. Already, the heightened activities of the illegality is limiting their access to communities of operation and social licenses, which could collapse the sector. The Ashanti Regional PRO of the association, Arafat Suleimana, has been speaking of their gains.
So yesterday we had a letter from the organized labor, indicating they will actually embark on a strike if the government doesn't make any move or make any statement regarding the illicit mining on our water bodies and our forest reserves. As an association, this was already a concern for us, which has been causing us a lot of challenges, because this has also been minimizing our access to the communities and then also limiting our social licenses, which we've created for over a long period of time. And as such, we decided that if so, we've already embarked on operations on the Birim River, where we're trying to make sure that we rid it of any illegal miner who is sitting on the Birim River, which is causing the turbidity. And we were able to chalk a lot of successes there. Turbidity that was at 2,000, we were able to bring it down to 50. And our coordination with the Ghana Water Company within the district was so good that anytime the turbidity goes to even 200, they would actually indicate our task force. We'll go back and read them off. So it had this a wake-up call for us to come to a meeting, decide on what actions to take on all the water bodies that we found dredgers and chamfer operators who are sitting on the water bodies and destroying them. So we decided to come on a meeting today, discuss the issues at hand and see.
There you have the small-scale miners in the Ashanti region. But let's still stay the steam on issues of illegal mining. It's an existential threat that we're faced with. So why not, Grace? Because the paramount chief of the Lower Axim area, Awolai Atiburkusu III, has led an operation with his sub-chiefs to arrest illegal miners at some illegal mining sites in the Nzema East municipality of the Western region. Awolai Atiburkusu has vowed to hold accountable any traditional leader in his jurisdiction found to be complicit in environmental degradation and ensure they face the swift sanctions from the traditional council.
Complain. Mama Nede. I told me Hanum, I am Fnubi one side some Ugudu Warrior Galamsey. Roman Jeezy. But Banade said Amada, what he sees believing into other Makasama Banamede, Mbabe. Ampara, Missim. Now you're come on, Moya.
The youth in my community are well aware of my opposition to Galamsey, but it's the leaders who are perpetuating this destructive practice. As a result, I have summoned an emergency traditional council meeting to address it. One of the implicated chiefs has effectively sacked himself. Let this serve as a warning. Regardless of status, anyone found complicit will face the consequences.
Emergency traditional council ko ochene dua. Into the money there, you governor apparatus. You will police for your own soldier.
We must leverage government apparatus, including the police and military, to combat this Galamsey menace. If I hadn't intervened, our youth would have taken matters into their own hands and destroyed the equipment. Instead, I urged them to bring the evidence to the police station. We've already arrested 1 Chinese and 2 Ghanaian nationals, and I'll see this case through to its conclusion. This is not small-scale mining, it's outright Galamsey, as evident in the devastating river destruction, massive holes dug into the riverbed. I will ensure they reclaim the site.
And that's a report by my colleague, Irama Smith, there, away from Galamsey.
Yes, Alfred, another issue that will be of interest to every Ghanaian, because the Ghana Health Service says it has so far identified 25 persons who came into contact with a 15-year-old who tested positive for Mpox in the Western North region. This forms part of efforts to contain the spread of the highly contagious disease, as health officials across Ghana's 16 regions remain on high alert. Ghana has confirmed its first case of Mpox since a resurgence in Africa this year. The case, according to the health service, was recorded in the Western North region, with 230 more suspected cases in 88 districts in all 16 regions. Officials say surveillance has been heightened at all ports of entry across the country. Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Estiedu-Bekwing, spoke exclusively to 3FM on the situation so far.
The WHO declared it as a fake. That's public emergency of international concern. So following that, we alerted our system and then activated our surveillance system. So a lot of things has been taking place, and we have also updated our plan. So we getting the first case is not so surprising. We actually confirmed it 2 days ago in Western North. But because our system has already been established, we have gotten 230 suspected cases, which are all negative. But then the confirmation in Ghana brings to bear the fact that we need to heighten whatever we are doing. So we are enhancing our surveillance systems across all the regions. We are also going to make sure that our contact tracing becomes more effective and efficient. For this particular case in question, we have identified 25 contacts, which are being followed up. I think today is day 3. We will follow them up to the end of the 21 days. The case in question, I've said it's a 15-year-old boy or male. He's fine. He just had I would say multiple rashes on the body and the face, and he's been seen at the facility and been discharged. So we are trying to make sure that we follow up all the contacts and make sure that if someone should become a case, we find more contacts and follow them up. We're also going to make sure that we enhance our awareness creation across. We're going to tighten our security, I would say awareness at our port of entries, so that if people are entering, they are well screened. You see, there are some instances that outbreaks occur. You are not able to establish the source, so it's not very surprising. So here we try to look at the sexual history. There's nothing obvious. There's no travel history. So there's no obvious reason why he had it. But that does not stop us from further investigating. We are now doing the sequencing. We are yet to come up with the clade. So when it comes out, we'll let the Ghanaian know about it. So what we want to say is that we should not be panicking. For 2022, we had 120 cases. Last year we had 8. So this first case shouldn't send any panic. What we want to assure Ghanaians is that the health system is available to be used. When you have rashes on your body, let know, go and apply some ointments on it. Go to a health facility, let's do the test.
Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Franklin Estiedu-Bekwing, saying there's no cause for alarm, so we should not panic. Professor Richmond Aite is joining us on the line. He is the head Department of Population and Reproductive Health at the School of Public Health, University of Ghana. Prof, thank you for making time to join us. Refresh our minds on what Mpox is and how does it differ from smallpox, for the benefit of our listeners who do not have an idea of what this virus is.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. So, as was mentioned, Mpox is not only being talked about in Ghana; it's also been identified in a number of countries. Essentially, it's a viral disease that is spread from people to people, and it can also be spread from animals to people because the virus typically is found in small animals, like originally was first found in monkeys, and that's how come it got its name. It's also found in other rodents. So basically, that's what the disease is. When you get it, I think the one that most people see visibly is the rash that occurs on the skin. And that's one of the defining characteristics. But it's not only the rash. There is also other symptoms that are associated with the disease.
What are these symptoms?
That's what it is. a number of symptoms. It can be fever. Fever is one of the early signs that can then be accompanied by headache, pain in the muscles, and then feeling of weakness and tiredness. And in some cases, people will have cough also. So these are the kinds of different symptoms that are associated with the condition.
Okay. Prof, and to think that this 15-year-old boy who has the virus now does not have any history of travel but has contacted it makes it a bit worrying for everybody. What should we be doing immediately to stop a further spread?
Like I said, this the virus is transmitted from person to person. So coming into contact with people can lead to transmission of the virus. So I think basically having adequate hygiene and sanitation measures, like the way we were having when we were during the COVID situation, ensuring that you are not touching surfaces. You know, it can be on surface that somebody who has been infected has touched or used materials that person has used. So I think for the most part, just ensuring that you have good hand hygiene, washing your hands and not touching, getting in touch with people you are not familiar with. You know, in this situation, you know, for example, people who are commercial sex workers, men who have sex with men, things like that can increase your risk of transmission because there are people that you don't know what their history is, you don't know what their background is. So those are the kinds of things that can increase the risk for transmission.
And Prof, let me take you back to the symptoms, especially with the rash. How extensive is this so that you don't have somebody going to the pharmacy to just get some cream for any rash that appears on their skin? Maybe it could be Mpox.
It's actually a distinctive rash in the sense that it's usually starts small, but it grows, becomes round, and usually it looks flat, round and flat, you know. But the thing is that if you have any rash, like the Ghana Health Service Director said, the best thing is to go to a health facility and get checked out because there are different rashes that look similar, you know, and the ordinary person may not be able to tell what it looks like. So it is good to first get the necessary help at a proper health facility.
And Prof, we have 230 suspected cases in all the 16 regions. Is it early days yet for the country to be looking at a public health emergency?
I think that the Ghana Health Service has the structures that it takes to be able to, when you identify such cases, do the follow-ups to find out who they have been in touch with. And those are the procedures for controlling it. And so once those processes have kicked in, there shouldn't be any cause for alarm. The thing is that the public also helps when they see such things or when they experience any of the symptoms that I've talked about, and they seek care. The earlier you seek care, the earlier cases can be identified, confirmed, and if you need to isolate those who have it, that way a lot more people will be prevented from having it.
All right, Prof, thank you for speaking to us. Professor Richmond Aite is Head Department of Population and Reproductive Health at the School of Public Health, University of Ghana.
So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're also live on W93.5 in YNB. If you're just joining us, some 11 minutes to the top of the hour, just stories gone by. We've been giving updates of the hundreds of concerned citizens who took to the streets of Accra as they embark on a 3-day protest to demand the halt of Galamsey and released detained anti-Galamsey protesters. That's a Democracy Hub protesters break breaking news as well of the Mandina Member of Parliament and private legal practitioner Francis Xavier Sosu dragging the Attorney General and the IGP to the Human Rights Court over the violation of the protesters' rights. 32 of these Democracy Hub protesters as well. President Akufo-Addo has appealed to organized labor to suspend its planned nationwide strike. This follows a declaration of strike after government refused to declare a state of emergency. We brought you the details of that said meeting. Organized labor is set to meet tomorrow to consider the president's plea on this matter. Stay with us here on Hot Edition while we get at it also. Looking at what's happening with the Ghana Health Education Service from the Health Service, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, is saying it will not hesitate to embark on a series of actions in the coming days to demand that the Ghana Education Service reinstates the heads of Ahantaman and St. Rose's Senior High Schools without delay. According to NAGRAT, the Ghana Education Service failed to conduct an effective investigation into the matter, leading to the interdiction. The Ghana Education Service interdicted the heads of these schools for allegedly authorizing the collection of some monies from parents whose wards are students of the school. President of NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu, was addressing a news conference in Accra earlier today.
Ahantaman Senior High School in Second D, and also the headmistress of St. Rose's Secondary School in Akutia. We are also hearing that similar situation is occurred in other schools in some region, but because the situation is not come to a head, I would not want to put those schools and the names of their heads. But for now, what we are dealing with currently is that of Ahantaman and St. Rose's Secondary School. Okay, so what I'm saying is, once you are allowed that parents can come together to form an association of a sort, what would then be the purpose for that? The purpose would be to help the school in one way or the other. And the only people they can levy will be the parents within the school. Some will be willing to, some will not. Or we've not gotten to action stage. I think that the facts are as is present to us, and when interrogated even at the surface level, will lead to the lifting of this. I mean, it will be an act of irresponsibility for anyone to allow this to cascade to an industrial action. I will even be very disappointed in my own management to sit aloof for this to cascade to the level of industrial action. However, if we know that our members have done nothing wrong and they have been embarrassed and interdicted, we don't have a choice than to use any means available to us to defend and get them exonerated.
As Angel Kabonu is president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT. So live here on Hot Edition of 3FM 92.7. We're going to go for this quick break. We're back with the business news with Bismarck Ewusa and the business team. Stay with us after this quick break.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported. All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ewusa. Coming up tonight, government achieves 98% Eurobond exchange participation, exceeding 68% targets. We'll bring you details. Thanks for your company. To our first story, government has achieved 98% participation in its Eurobond exchange program, exceeding its targeted 68%. Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, made the revelations at a press conference on completion of the exchange offer and consent solicitation in Accra.
As a result of this successful debt exchange, the country will exchange almost 13 billion US dollars in Eurobonds for new bonds in the coming weeks. This development, ladies and gentlemen, cures Ghana's default on international bonds, paving the way for normalized financial relationships with rating agencies and international markets. In a sense, Ghana has now restructured over 90% of its eligible external debt. Over 90% of our eligible external debt, marking a significant milestone in our economic recovery. We have achieved significant debt relief in record time. By this feat, we accomplished a remarkable milestone in our debt restructuring journey, completing our Eurobond debt exchange under 9 months.
Meanwhile, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam has also disclosed that the country's projected 109% of debt to GDP in 2028 will be reduced to 55% as a result of government's fiscal adjustments and the debt exchange program.
The fiscal adjustment efforts we continue to make under our fiscal consolidation efforts is bringing down the debt to GDP level in present value terms from the 109% in 2028 to 81% in 2028. Following that was the DDEP, the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, which will bring it down at 10 percentage points to 71%. Our agreement with the OCC, the Official Creditor Committee, our official bilateral creditors, which we concluded also, as you know, will bring it further down by 6 percentage points. And finally, the deal completed with the Eurobond holders will bring the debt to GDP in present value terms to 55% in 2028.
And that was Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam. Moving on, the Bank of Ghana has commended commercial banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions for a 29% decline in customer complaints in 2023. Last year, the central bank received 695 complaints, down from 983 in 2022. Head of Financial Stability at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Osei Yeboah, commended the institutions on the improvement while urging them to further enhance their complaint resolution processes. The regulator's push for efficient customer complaint handling aims to foster a customer-centric banking culture and maintain stability in the financial sector.
Customer complaint received by the Financial Stability Department fell by 29% in 2023 as compared to 2022. The decrease in complaints can be attributed in part to proactive measures taken by the industry to address the concerns of customers before it could be escalated to Bank of Ghana. Where complaints have arisen, banks have effectively resolved them through their internal dispute resolution process, which has reduced the number of cases referred to the regulator, as outlined in the recourse mechanism. I will urge us all to continue to strive for excellence, transparency, and fairness in all our endeavors with our customers, bearing in mind that the customer is the driving force to the success of our businesses and industry.
That was Head of Financial Stability at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Osei Yeboah, urging financial institutions to enhance their customer complaints mechanisms. Now, economist Professor John Gachi has reiterated calls for the country to consider registering as a member of the Islamic Development Bank. He believes the move will open the country to diversified opportunities received from development banks, including the IMF and the World Bank. The Dean of UCC Business School believes accessing funds from the Islamic Development Bank will ensure discipline in the country's spending as funds come with stricter rules.
When we register as a member of Islamic Development Bank, we are now open to assessing the advantage of Islamic Development Bank, in addition to the advantages we get from African Development Bank, World Bank, IMF, etc. So we are actually diversifying. That is the essence of that. Then after that, Islamic banking is arranged in such a way that it gives more meaning to PPP arrangement than running PPP arrangement based on conventional banking system. And when that happens, you will see a lot of Islamic bonds issue. And the nature of Islamic bond is such that when Islamic bonds are issued, there is a clause of oath-taking, where those who are issuing the Islamic bond will take an oath to those who bring their money to indicate that the purpose of which I raise this bond, I will use the money for that purpose.
Dean of UCC Business School, Professor John Gachi, ending the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Thanks for your company. Sports is next.
When it comes to the world of sports, what does complete mean to you?
When my team scores at the end of a 30-plus passing sequence, you know, like Pep Guardiola style.
When someone beats the buzzer from a shot from the logo, like Steph Curry.
Dominating opponents and punching my way to a knockout, like Africa's greatest boxer, Azuma Nelson.
Running so fast that I can afford to celebrate midway through a 100-meter race and smash the world record like Usain Bolt.
Hold up. What makes all of these sports complete is the screen. This is where you get access to extensive analysis, insights, and highlights.
So join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. live on 3FM 92.7 as we serve you the most satisfying buffet in the world of sports. The 3 Sports team will come together to review, preview, and analyze the latest in sports on Sports Ultras.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Oreku Ampofo. We'll be starting off with the Black Stars who will be getting ready for their Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Sudan. A doubleheader with the team know that they have to win given their results in the recent international window where they ended up losing against Angola and then drawing against Niger. But despite these results, Derek Boateng, who is a former international, still believes that there has to be some patience surrounding the team, given that they are young and they would need to develop.
For me, I think I want Ghanaians to know that we are in new phase now of players, new staff, young players. I always say that things will get worse before it get better. That's football. It's a teamwork. It's not individual sport. So I think the coach is a new coach. He's a young coach. We have young players, new players. They don't know what it means to play for Ghana and what you have to go through before you play for Ghana. So for me, it's a learning process for them. I think we have to allow them to grow as a team. so that they will do a better job. And I know we have a good squad, we really, really have a good squad. But like I said to you earlier on, it's a teamwork. So they have to gel together, they have to come together as a team and play as a team. And with the coach that they have, I think they are going to do very, very well. Because Tuado is used to be my colleague, and I know how generous he is, and he'll give everyone a chance. But I feel like Ghanaians have to have patience for the team to grow and also the coach to do his work. We are going to get there, but it will get worse before it get better.
So those were words from Derek Boateng, who is a former international himself. The Black Stars will be playing at the Accra Sports Stadium for the first time since 2021. That is for competitive games when they beat Sao Tome and Principe by 3-1. They'll be welcoming Sudan in that game in the AFCON qualifier match day 3. It's a match that the team definitely needs to win. But let's do some more stories and look ahead to some Europa League fixtures, as Manchester United would be in Portugal as they face Porto in match day 2 in the new Europa League phase. They drew their first game against FC Twente at Old Trafford 1-1, and given the pressure on Erik ten Hag and their recent results, specifically in their last game against Tottenham Hotspur, the Dutch coach is he's actually charging his team that they ensure that they use the madness for the defeat in their previous games to be able to push themselves as they travel to Porto in the Europa League today.
We are mad with ourselves, and especially when you lose a game like Sunday. Also, after all, then when you have to play so long time with 10 players, and then after it's overturned the red card, that gives frustration because such a long time to play with 10 is of course never in your advantage, had a real impact on the game, but you have to deal with it. And we are mad, and now from the madness we have to get motivation, and we go into the next game.
Multiple reports do suggest that Ten Hag does have the game against Porto, and then the away match against Aston Villa in the Premier League over the weekend to save his job. The match kicks off in just over an hour, and we'll be bringing you updates of that match and then Europa League matches on our social media handles at 3SportsGH. But before we go, the international window is just around the corner. I did mention that the Black Stars will be in action in just over a week time against Sudan, but there would also be UEFA Nations League action, and England have announced their squad. The biggest storyline from the squad announced by Carsley, who is currently in as the temporary coach given Southgate lost his job, has included Dominic Solanke in the Three Lions team. Now, it's the first time that the Tottenham Hotspur striker has been included in the squad in about 7 years' time.
Dom's a player that I'm fully aware of, having worked with him in the past. Dom was really close to being in the last squad. Obviously, he got injured just before selection. A player that's done so well at Bournemouth, and now he's taken that form into Spurs. He's got a lot of really good attributes that I really like, as well as being a really nice person. He's extremely talented, and it's good that we've got him.
Well, that's how we're wrapping up the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Imagine a place where voices matter, where every corner, every street, every community is a platform.
A big bus moving through Accra, carrying conversations, questions, and the pulse of the nation. This is not just another show, it's your voice on the move.
Join us as 3FM Sunrise hits the road, turning ordinary streets into platforms for extraordinary dialogue. Speak freely, listen deeply, and help shape the conversation that drives Ghana forward.
Look out for the bus and tune in exclusively on 3FM 92.7, your urban lifestyle radio.
FM 92.7.
This is the Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. So there's news also coming from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Alfred. This is a letter from the board chairman of the hospital being directed to the Chief Executive Officer of Kolebu. And it says, dear sir, notice of end of tenure and interim arrangement. The board of directors of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital wishes to inform you that your 4-year term as a Chief Executive Officer comes to an end on October 5th, 2024. On behalf of the board, I extend our sincerest congratulations to you for your dedication and invaluable contributions to the growth and development of the hospital during your tenure. As we await communication from the appointing authorities regarding the next steps, the board has resolved to appoint Dr. Franco Susetre, Director of Medical Affairs, to act as Interim Chief Executive Officer effective October 6th, 2024. The board's primary concern remains the seamless continuity of the hospital's operations and the well-being of our patients. We solicit the cooperation and support of all stakeholders during this transition period. Thank you for your service. So the Board of Directors of Kolebu Teaching Hospital informing the CEO that his tenure has come to an end, and in his place, an interim CEO has been appointed.
Interesting developments there. You know, Kolebu Teaching Hospital itself has been under the radar for quite a while for a number of issues. So it's one development that we're following quite closely to get a bit more details.
This is even an issue that Johnny spoke about on Johnny's Bite this morning. And so it is very interesting to find out that just when he spoke about it this morning, this is the news coming out from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Just like he said, we'll be following it to see what subsequently comes out of it.
We'll see how things play out here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, over 345 companies have been liquidated since the passing of the Corporate Insurance and Restructuring Act 2020, while only 3 companies have gone into administration. The Ghana Association of Restructuring and Insolvency Advisors, Garia, said this is unacceptable and has therefore called for efforts to turn distressed companies around before the option of liquidation. The 3-day business rescue training for insolvency practitioners. President of Garia, Felix Addo, said the judiciary must create a special court to handle insolvency cases. They're also asking for professionals, including judges and accountants, to be more available. And let's hear from them and that call that they made earlier within the week.
As I said, the focus of the law is to turn around businesses which are distressed. Unfortunately, since the passage of the law, almost 5 years ago, we've had only 3 companies which have come under what we call administration, right? And for liquidations, we've had 435 companies which have been liquidated. The whole idea is that before companies are liquidated, there will be reviews to show whether they can be rescued and they could be viable. Okay? There will be companies which are not revivable. They will be terminated, as they say. But a lot of the 435 companies, most invariably, could have been turned around if they have gone into administration. Try their hand on turning companies around. If you are a professional, banker, accountant, lawyer, because you have had professional training, the tendency is that you think you can turn a company around. But no, you have to have special training.
Deputy Attorney General Diana Asunabadapam, also speaking there, said the office will provide assistance to the Registry of Companies to support companies that are distressed.
The knowledge or understanding of insolvency has been premised on liquidation simplicity. So it's been a chunk of years that you need to let people know that there's an evolution. We've now moved from liquidation simplicity to now the first option or the priority being to rescue businesses. But you can't do that with just the passage of the law. A company that should have the education, the awareness creation, and also sensitization. These are really the gaps because of how the spectrum of how our company and insolvency structure has been.
Zaina Sunabadapa is the Deputy Attorney General.
To other stories tonight, the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority, VRA, has called on government to publicly announce the withdrawal of a proposed bill that seeks to merge the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, We Power Authority, Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, and VRA into separate entities. This comes after ongoing concerns raised by VRA's senior staff regarding the potential negative impacts of the merger on both the authority and the nation. The senior staff made the demand during a closed-door meeting with Minister for Energy, Herbert Krapper. We're working the phone to speak to Theophilus Tetahia, who is chairman of the Senior Staff Association, to brief us on that meeting with the Energy Minister and what the outcome has been. He has joined us on the line now. Mr. Tahia, thank you for joining us. Brief us about your meeting with the Energy Minister on the proposed merger of VRA and the other bodies. Well, he's not on the phone yet. We're working the phone to speak to him. But the Senior Staff Association of VRA has called on government to publicly announce the withdrawal of a proposed bill that seeks to merge the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, We Power Authority, Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, and VRA into two separate entities. This comes after ongoing concerns raised by VRA's senior staff regarding the potential negative impact of the merger on both the authority and the nation. The senior staff made the demand during a closed-door meeting with Minister for Energy, Herbert Krapper. Theophilus Tetahia is chairman of the Senior Staff Association. He has joined us now for a conversation. Mr. Tahia, tell us about your meeting with the Energy Minister on the proposed merger of VRA and other power sector players.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Tahia, can you hear me?
I think that your line is not too clear. Please, can you repeat your
Yes, I was asking you to brief us about the meeting you had with the minister today.
Please, I'm not getting your question.
So we know. Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Tahia, can you hear me?
Can you please call back? The line is not clear. The line is too
Well, we'll work the phone to speak to Theophilus Tetahia, chairman of the Senior Staff Association, VRA.
It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. This is your election command center. Election Command Center and Vice Presidential Candidate of the NDC, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, has appealed to chiefs to call on the Electoral Commission to conduct free and fair elections devoid of violence. She was speaking at the session also as part of the 4-day campaign tour in the Western North region. We'll bring you details of that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. And let's go to the PNC now.
Yes, Alfred, the disqualified flag bearer of the People's National Convention, PNC, Bernard Mona, says he's poised to challenge his disqualification by the Electoral Commission. The EC disqualified the PNC leader from the December presidential race for allegedly failing to satisfy the requirement on the nomination form. Bernard Mona told the National Chief Imam during a courtesy visit that the posturing of the Electoral Commission has a tendency of plunging the country into chaos.
We'll try to get Bernard Mona on the telephone shortly to have a conversation with him on this particular position as taking. And if you recall, 2 days ago during the Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting with the Electoral Commission, the chair of the Electoral Commission, Jen Mensah, indicated that they give all the political parties that opportunity to go through the process of rectifying. Absolutely. So we'll see exactly why Bernard Mona is well convinced and going to court. And remember, they are in court. In fact, there's a mandamus and there's a certiorari application that they are in court seeking and indicating that the Electoral Commission violated their right to natural justice, and what they did was illegal and unacceptable and capricious, and so they want the courts to overturn that decision by the Electoral Commission to disqualify him in taking part in this election ahead of us. So that's one thing as well that we'll keep an eye on. But this is the chair of the Electoral Commission, Jen Mensah, 2 days ago talking about the disqualification.
To emphasize that the register in question is a provisional one. As its name suggests, it is a draft. It is not the final voters' register. It allows for an inspection and correction of discrepancies. Following that, we have the sittings of the district registration review officers, and these are magistrates appointed by the Chief Justice of Ghana to every district, and they hear and rule on cases including the objections to persons on the voters' register. All voters to review their details and to present any discrepancies they may have to us.
Well, that's Jen Mensah there. Now, before we engage Bernard Mona, who is the presidential candidate of the PNC, there's some news from the PNP as well, right?
People's National Party. Janet Nabla
That's a breakaway of the PNC.
Yes, Alfred.
What are they saying?
So we know that she was also disqualified from the presidential race, and she had initially indicated she was going to the court. But a press release from her camp this afternoon says the PNP threw its support behind its current chair and leader, Janet Asana Nabla, to contest in the upcoming presidential election. Unfortunately, the Electoral Commission decided to disqualify her on grounds we respectfully disagree with the Commission. The party, upon consulting its members across the country, has chosen to let it go and rather concentrate on receiving a final certificate to enable it operate as a fully fledged political party. The PNP as a political party is not limited to contesting elections, but rather educate citizens to help them make an informed decision about political issues, government policies, and their impact on the society. In addition, the PNP shall hold the government of the day accountable by reviewing policies, proposing alternatives, and ensuring transparency. We therefore appeal to our teaming followers to remain resolute as we come out with a direction on the way to go come December 7th. And when you say PNP, you say my family, my community, my motherland. Alfred.
Well, there's one person who is not taking the path of Janet Nabla. He has gone to court seeking a halt so an injunction placed on the Electoral Commission with related to any activities to the presidential election on December 7th. And now he's also gone with the certiorari and mandamus application against the Electoral Commission, and essentially indicating that his fundamental human rights have been violated, the right to natural justice has been violated. Said the decision by the Electoral Commission to disqualify him was capricious and illegal. Bernard Mona, flag bearer of the PNC, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Nana Ocansey, good evening.
First off, now you're saying that elections, the 2024 elections cannot proceed without your inclusion on the ballot paper. Why is that?
But when you are illegitimately deleted or removed from a voter's roll, you must ensure that your right to be on the voter's roll, and in this particular instance, the voters' list of candidates that should be voted for, your right must be restored. The Electoral Commission acted prematurely when they chose to disqualify me without merit, and then immediately upon disqualifying me decided to proceed to go and do balloting. This is not done anywhere. You are doing balloting at a time when there is no final voters register, knowing very well that after the balloting, you still have to wait for several weeks or months before you can proceed with a final voters register. And it is on the basis of a final voters register that you can actually start printing of material. So what was the haste in? Disqualify us and immediately running to go and ballot, particularly so when you do know that our right to natural justice was not guaranteed, and that even where you claim that there were some, what you described as incomplete particulars of my supporters, we ratified and returned same to you before your time that you requested for. So there was no merit. If you erred, then you must give room for such errors to be corrected. The Electoral Commission did not provide us that opportunity. And that is why we have to go to court, to ask the court that, look, the Electoral Commission violently took away my rights to be on the ballot paper. And two, they denied citizens the choice of their president. I remain the people's president, and they should not take the whimsical and capricious attitude of the Electoral Commission to deny the people their choice of the president that they want. And that is why we are in court.
And when is your case expected to be heard? Because the EC is proceeding with the process as we speak.
Well, I don't know what the EC can do. Can the EC print ballot papers when the EC itself is telling you that there's no final voters register? So what processes are they proceeding with? So certainly those processes cannot. The Electoral Commission itself admits that some ones of us have gone to court. If they are respecters of law, it means that they have to wait for the court to take a decision before they can do any other thing. And so to the extent that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission admits publicly when they met at IPAC that we have taken them to court, it's admission that they know the issues before the court, and therefore they cannot act beyond what we have requested for. Certainly on the 7th of October, we'll be in court with them. That is just coming Monday. And I am of no doubt that the Electoral Commission will be told to do the needful.
And the needful being that you should be restored and
added. Included in the ballot, and then I will be a choice for you, Alfred, and the many Ghanaians who want me as president to vote for me.
Why do you say this decision to disqualify you undermines the democratic process, really, of this country as we have it?
The citizens' right to choose their leader cannot be curtailed. And you know that Article 42 and Article 62 of the 1992 Constitution gives the prerequisite qualification to lead this nation as president. I have met all those qualifications. So if you go and take trivia to be the basis upon which you say you want to disqualify somebody, you admit to mistakes even in your own voters register compilation. You admit mistakes even in the presidential and parliamentary forms that you have sent to citizens to complete. In part of the forms, if we did not cancel the not, the Electoral Commission is telling us that you should indicate that you are not qualified to be a member of parliament. So if I fill the form the same way that you put it, I would have denied myself the right to be on the form. You also make mistakes, and you think that mistakes of some people cannot be countenanced. If mistakes are not avoided, I said that they cannot be tolerated, then the EC is not competent or qualified to continue to handle the affairs of this nation.
They have continuously indicated that they gave you the chance to rectify the errors on your forms, and you brought it back with almost similar errors. And
it's not true. And I say this is not true. When people are entrusted with responsibility, they must act with a certain sense of responsibility and integrity. They gave me indicated incomplete particulars of my nomination forms, and these were contained in pages 9, 10, 37, 39, 42, 46, 50. These are the pages that the Electoral Commission highlighted as the pages that I have incomplete particulars of my supporters. Nene, go and pick the form and check those pages, whether the errors have not been corrected.
Bernard Mona, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thank you for having me.
Bernard Mona is the presidential candidate of the PNC, in fact, the flag bearer of the PNC. And as we speak, he's in court battling the Electoral Commission for his decision to disqualify him. Not part of the chosen 13. But he's hoping that that decision will be overturned by the court on Monday.
And he will become the choice, Alfred, your choice, and the choice for a lot more Ghanaians.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition. Join me on TV3 at 10 p.m. for Ghana Tonight. My name is Alfred Akrofi.
My name is Grace Hamwajiman. Thank you for joining us. Good evening.